Joining us for today's ceremony, we have a band and choir from the Melbourne High School, a choir from McRobertson Girls High School. Our pipers today, Fergus Cameron and Oscar Jaski, are students at Scotch College, and the cadets on parade are from Melbourne High School, as is our bugler, Joshua Lobo. Also assisting in today's service, we have our Shrine Young Ambassadors, William Mulhauser, Liana Loney, Patrick Dickinson, Matthew Threlfall, and Benjamin Bazina. The Young Ambassador program provides an opportunity for students in Year 9 and 10 to actively participate in programs and commemorative events at the Shrine. Their appointment is for a 13-month period from December to December of the following year, and the key role is to act as leaders within their school and social communities, in addition to representing future generations at Shrine ceremonies. Young ambassadors encourage their peers and other young people to gain a greater understanding of the importance of remembering and honouring Australia's service community and military history. The Shrine of Remembrance acknowledges the Bunurong people of the Kulin Nation as the traditional custodians of the land on which we gather to honour Australian Defence Force service and sacrifice. Bunurong Land Council elders Uncle Mark and Uncle Josh are with us today with a welcome to country.
Hey, how deadly was that? That was Uncle Josh on Yidiki, and I'm Uncle Mark. We're both elders and senior cultural heritage officers at the Bunurong Land Council. Uncle Josh is a proud Palawa Bunurong man, and I'm a proud Gunda Jamara Bunurong man. And today we're here to welcome you to Bunurong country. But before we do that, as always, we take a moment and we pay our respects. We pay our respects to all of my ancestors. We pay our respects to all of my elders. And we pay respects to all of my community members, past, present, and emerging. And we acknowledge the continuous and unbroken connection to country for the Bunurong people. We also pay acknowledgements and respects to all traditional owners, Aboriginal and Torres Strait, who work, rest, live or play on Bunurong country. And we thank you all for being here with us. But today on this sacred land, we all gather in the spirit of respect, unity, and reconciliation. This welcome is an opportunity. It's an opportunity for us to honour and respect the deep cultural heritage of the Bunurong people of the Kulin Nations, whose elders and community members have generously looked after these lands for countless generations. My people have a deep spiritual connection to these lands, encompassing all of our rivers, our mountains, our coastal areas, and all of our beautiful bushlands that surround us today. Our traditional territory spans from the Werribee River in the west, and we move north to Diggers Rest. We move over to the Dandenong Ranges, the Yarra Valleys, and down to Wilson's Prom. We encompass the top end of Tasmania, which we share with the Palawa people, and French and Phillip Island are also ours. These are the traditional territories of the Bunurong people that I welcome everybody to today. As I said, we have a deep spiritual connection to our lands. We also have a strong cultural identity tied to our ancestral plains. All of our stories, our language, our culture, our traditions, and our law are interwoven with the very fabrics of the soils that surround us, reflecting my people's profound knowledge, wisdoms, and ongoing custodianships to all of these ancient lands. As we gather here today, we recognise that this ceremony is a part of our shared journey. It's a shared journey of reconciliation, and it's a shared journey of understanding. By acknowledging and encompassing the deep ritual heritage of the Bunurong people of the Kulin Nations, we strive to foster mutual respect, cultural exchange, and a celebration of diversities. So on behalf of all those gathered here today, we extend our heartfelt welcome. May our time together be filled with reverence, learning, and a renewed commitment to honouring and cherishing the Bunurong people, our traditions, our language, our culture, our law, but more importantly, honouring and cherishing the sacred lands on which we stand. So Wamanjenka Balakiakia, Ngata Bunurong Balak Bik, and welcome. Welcome to beautiful Bunurong country. Please walk her with soft feet and very, very open hearts. Thank you.
Thank you, Uncle Mark and Uncle Josh. We now await the Honour Guard from Melbourne High School, who will march up to forecourt and take position. We just saw a fly past by the RAAF Windshield aircraft. Not sure whether he'll turn around and come back, I hope so. The Windshield takes its name from an Aboriginal word meaning young eagle, and it was operated by the No. 1 Basic Flying Training School in a variety of test and training rules from 1956. In 1975, it was replaced by the CT-4A air trainer, and the Windshield was allocated to the RAAF School of Technical Training to be used as a training aid. It was restored to an airworthy condition in 1995, and it's been used regularly since in flying displays by the RAAF Museum and now No. 100 Squadron. He was due to fly over at 10:57, and he was right on the button. Well done. We now await the Honour Guard are now in position, and we await the arrival of Her Excellency the Honourable Professor Margaret Gardner, the Governor of Victoria, who'll be greeted at the northern end of the forecourt by Captain Stephen Bowater, Chairman of the Shrine of Remembrance Trustees, the Vice President of Melbourne Legacy, Michael Annett, Junior Legatee Lucy Pilgrim, and Shrine Young Ambassador Will Mulhauser. The official party will then make their way along the forecourt, paying respect to the eternal flame as they pass. The Governor of Victoria, Her Excellency the Honourable Professor Margaret Gardner, accompanied by the Melbourne Legacy Vice President Michael Annette, will now inspect the Guard of Honour. This is a well-established tradition which dates back to ancient times, when military leaders would review their troops before going into battle. In modern times, this inspection of the troops allows the Governor to show support for the military and to express gratitude for the service of the men and women who serve their country. It can also serve to build morale among the troops, as it gives them the opportunity to meet and interact with their leaders and other important figures. In some countries, the inspection of troops is a highly ceremonial event steeped in tradition and symbolism. It can involve the marching of troops in formation, playing of military music, and the display of lots of flags and symbols. Overall, the tradition of inspecting the troops is a way to honour the service and sacrifice of the military, to assess the readiness of military units, and to build relationships between military leaders and other important figures. You're now invited to join with the McRobertson Girls High School Choir and the Melbourne High School Band and Choir as they present the song, I Am Australian. You'll find the words in your program.
From the dusty rest of plains, I am the ancient heart, the keeper of the flames. I stood upon the rocky shore, I watched the tall ships come. For 40,000 years I've been the first Australian. We are one, but we are many, and from all the lands on earth we come. Share a dream and sing with one voice. I am, you are, we are Australia. I came upon the British ship, knocked down by iron chains. I cleared the land, endured the lash, and waited for the rains. I'm a settler, then a farmer's wife, a dry and barren rod, a convict, then a free man, I became Australian. We are one, but we are many, and from all the lands on earth we come. We share a dream and sing with one voice.
Thank you to the McRobertson Girls High School Choir and the Melbourne High School Band and Choir. The Governor of Victoria, Her Excellency the Honourable Professor Margaret Gardner, will now deliver the Melbourne Legacy 92nd Annual Anzac Commemoration Ceremony address.
Darren Cheeseman, Parliamentary Secretary for Education, representing the Honourable Ben Carroll, Deputy Premier and Minister for Education. Ewan Walters, Parliamentary Secretary for Disability, representing the Honourable Natalie Suleiman, Minister for Veterans and Minister for Youth. Jess Wilson, Shadow Minister for Early Childhood and Education. Michael Annette, Vice President, Melbourne Legacy. Captain Stephen Bowater, Chair of the Shrine of Trustees, and Dean Lee, CEO, Shrine of Remembrance. Des Callahan, State Senior President, representing Dr. Robert Webster, State President, and members of RSL Victoria. Senior officers and members of the Australian Defence Force, members of Victorian Police, members of the Consular Corps, members of Melbourne Legacy, Shrine Young Ambassadors and Junior Legatees, teachers and students, distinguished guests. It is wonderful to see all of you here today. Let me begin by acknowledging that we meet on the unceded lands of the people of the Eastern Kulin Nations, the Boonwurrung people on which this building stands, and pay my respects to their elders past and present. I'd also like to thank Uncle Mark Brown and Uncle Josh West for their warm welcome to country. In this year, in 2024, we mark 110 years since the beginning of World War I. That was a conflict that tore apart nations, toppled empires, and led to the death of approximately 16 million people. It was called the Great War. It was a terrible war. The widespread chaos and destruction led German writer Erich Remarque to describe World War I as the place that love was murdered. Yet World War I is what we commemorate because from it grew an understanding, grew new friendships and new alliances. Understanding the impact of the First World War on Australia from this time can be difficult. Australia was and is geographically distant from the battlefields. But Australians were deeply involved. More than 60,000 were killed at a time when our population was less than 5 million. The people killed were volunteers. The scale of the loss was felt throughout the state and throughout the nation. And you can see it commemorated around Victoria today, because in Victoria, in almost every city and town, there's a monument to those who served in what was then known as the Great War. France was the site of many battles. The French town Villers-Bretonneux, located along the Western Front, was liberated from German occupation thanks to the efforts of 2 Australian brigades. Once the town had been recaptured, the Australian and French flags were raised alongside one another, symbolising the unity between those two nations. Like many wartime friendships, that relationship between France and Australia continued into the post-war era until today. Victorian schools raised funds for that town's rebuilding efforts. And when Australia, so many decades later, was faced with the black summer bushfires of 2019 and 2020, the people of Villers-Bretonneux returned the favour and launched a fundraiser for the affected Victorian communities. That's a long and strong relationship. The influence of that relationship can be seen in the communities. The local school in Villers-Bretonneux is named Victoria School, and it sits on Melbourne Road. In every classroom, there is a banner reminding those French students and teachers to never forget Australia. In the mid-1980s, Robinvale and Villers-Bretonneux became sister towns following youth exchanges and official visits. This lasting connection was built on a shared experience of loss, and loss that unified, much like Melbourne Legacy. For more than 95 years, Melbourne Legacy has worked to support the families of Australians who've served in the armed forces. Through the tireless work of staff and volunteers, Legacy supports more than 4,700 people, providing the support they need. Legacy now, today, has continued its original promise, and I applaud, and we should all applaud, its dedication to helping as many affected Victorians as possible. So today, we do thank Melbourne Legacy and the legatees for their ongoing work in the Victorian community and for ensuring that young Victorians continue to learn from our history. War is a terrible thing. What we seek is peace, but we remember those and honour those who have made a sacrifice for peace for others. And so Melbourne Legacy is one of the ways, the positive ways in which we honour, recognise that unity and working with others is important to how we build the communities that we seek. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for a very inspiring address. Would you now welcome Captain Stephen Bowater, the Chairman of the Shrine of Remembrance Trustees.
Her Excellency, the Governor of Victoria, Parliamentary Secretaries, members of the Opposition, distinguished guests, fellow veterans, and most importantly, the students of Victoria here today. Good morning and welcome to the Shrine of Remembrance and the 2024 Melbourne Legacy Commemoration Ceremony for Students. My name is Captain Steve Bowater and I am privileged to serve as the Chair of the Shrine of Remembrance Trustees. Today marks the annual observance of this special service linking Melbourne Legacy with the Shrine. Legacy has actively supported the Shrine since its foundation in 1927, and together we have served our community's need to remember those who have served in times of war. The Shrine of Remembrance is held in care by the Shrine Trustees on behalf of all Victorians. We embrace the diversity of our community and acknowledge the Boonwurrung people of the Kulin Nation as traditional custodians on the land of which we honour Australian Defence Force service and sacrifice. We pay our respects to their elders past and present. The Shrine of Remembrance was opened 90 years ago in 1934 to commemorate the 114,000 Victorians who enlisted in the First World War, 89,100 whom deployed to battlefronts overseas, and sadly 19,000 died. Our enduring purpose now is to honour the service and sacrifice of Victorians and Australians in war, conflict, peacemaking and peacekeeping from the First World War of 1914 to 1918 to today. We warmly welcome you all as the nation prepares for its most revered day of remembrance, Anzac Day. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain Stephen Bowater. Now with a special legacy welcome, the Vice President of Melbourne Legacy, Michael Annett.
Your Excellency, I would first of all like to thank you for your address and your presence here today to support the work of Legacy. I would also like to welcome all of the invited guests and dignitaries that are here today, particularly the Chairman of the Shrine Trustees, and we thank the Shrine Trustees for the ability, as always, to gather here in the lead up to Anzac Day to mark the work of Legacy and to seek the broader support of the community for our ongoing efforts. And Melbourne Legacy and all the Legacy branches and clubs throughout the state are very encouraged by your presence and support here today. Most importantly, I would like to thank all of those of you, the students, the teachers, the veterans, the legatees that are here today, all those that work with Legacy, be it directly or through the support of local communities to further our very important cause. Over 100 years ago today, in a trench somewhere in France, one digger made a promise or a pledge to another, his cobber in the phrase of the time. And that was a simple request, if he didn't make it home, to look after his kids and the missus in the phrase of the time. Today we would take that to mean his partner and immediate family. That pledge shaped the core mission and motivation of Legacy over our 100+ years of service. Over 100,000 Australian men and women have fell protecting this nation and its way of life. Many more have led lives inevitably changed through injury, both physical and mental. All those people have been unable perhaps to look after those they loved in the way that they would have liked. We all still live in the shadow of those losses as we gather here today in the shadow of this great monument to ensure that we never forget the sacrifice that was made and the debt that we owe. But we also need to remember that the lives we enjoy, the freedoms and institutions that sometimes we tend to take for granted, were at times in our history needed to be defended and preserved. Our lives today are far better for that sacrifice, and still, while we can certainly always improve our society and the communities in which we live, we still live a life far better than almost anywhere else in the world. And we only need to look around today at current events to see the truth of that. Legacy helps to pay the debt that the nation owes our veterans and their families. Legacy changes lives of those impacted by service, and that has been the stimulus for many who have been helped by Legacy to become legatees themselves. That's certainly the case in my situation. Many say that if Legacy didn't exist, someone would need to invent it. And I recall that amongst others, I think His Excellency the Governor-General said that at our centenary dinner here in Melbourne last year. And that is certainly true. It is a unique organisation. Even those countries that we so often compare ourselves to, such as the UK, the US, Canada, New Zealand, have no equivalent organisation, direct equivalent organisation. And for that, we should be really thankful. So yes, we certainly need to say lest we forget, but that is not enough. We also need to pay tribute to that sacrifice by caring for those that are left behind. But thank you again for coming today and supporting the ongoing work of Legacy.
Thank you, Michael Annett. We now welcome AJ Sonti from Portland Secondary College. Sonti is the winner of the Legacy Junior Public Speaking Awards for Regional Victoria, winner of the state finals and third in the national finals. AJ?
Good morning. Her Excellency Professor the Honourable Margaret Gardner, AC, Governor of Victoria. Legacy Vice President, Michael Annett. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow students, today I'll be talking about how remembrance keeps us alive. Harold Hodge was a plumber in 1914 before war broke out and changed civilization forever. For Harold, he went from fighting clogged drain pipes to fighting the Turks. Harold is somebody I always remember, because without him surviving 6 months in the Middle East and then 5 months at Gallipoli, including being in the first wave of soldiers to land on the Turkish shores, I would not be here speaking to you today. He was my great-grandfather, and I'm also equally as grateful that he met and married my great-grandmother while fighting overseas. Now, the standard definition of remembrance is thinking of someone now gone with respect and affection. But that isn't the only definition. My example of remembrance would be remembering hitting those winning runs for the Koroit Cricket Club to get us into the grand final, which, unfortunately, I can only remember dreaming about rather than actually doing it. Yours could be remembering when the milk bar sold 2 lollies for 1 cent. Oh, the dentist would have been rich back then. Or maybe it was trying to remember the answers to that end-of-year maths test coming up that you were meant to be studying for, but instead you were staying up late catching up on the latest episode of Fawlty Towers, which, funnily enough, going by the topic of this speech, the most famous line in Fawlty Towers is "Don't mention the war." And while on the topic of Fawlty Towers, Harold Hodge married my great-grandmother, Hetty, in Torquay, England, where Fawlty Towers was set. Oh, it's funny where remembrance can take you. Another example of remembrance is when writing this speech that I suffered a moderate concussion playing footy. I lost complete memory of the day I suffered it, and still, to this day, I can't figure out what happened. I could even remember when I couldn't remember. But while it is fun and cheerful, there is still a serious and long history behind remembrance. Remembrance goes right back to the soldiers of the Great Wars, all the Anzac and Remembrance Days. On these days, I remember Harold, just like how all the other families across Australia and the world remember their fallen loved ones. Remembrance is what keeps people connected, and especially through the COVID pandemic, all we had was remembrance and dodgy Zoom calls to keep us connected. Remembrance is what keeps us alive, whether it's catching up on that favourite old TV show or remembering the fallen. It's what brings people to work and school. So what are some of your memories? Was it when you first attended an Anzac or Remembrance Day service? Or when you realised Carlton actually played a final for the first time you have seen in your life? Remember those moments and cherish them.
Thank you, AJ. It's time now to welcome back our choir and a very popular song that we can all join in, Waltzing Matilda.
Billabong.
Thank you for that. Now will you please stand as the Shrine Guard will now form the catafalque party at the Eternal Flame. The Governor of Victoria, Her Excellency the Honourable Professor Margaret Gartner, and Melbourne Legacy Vice President Michael Annett will now lay wreaths at the Eternal Flame. The 2 wreaths will be handed to the Governor and Legacy Vice President by Shrine Young Ambassadors Patrick Dickinson and Matthew Threlfall. We now invite the Shrine Young Ambassadors, Melbourne Legacy Junior Legatees, and all students laying wreaths to come forward and lay your wreaths under direction from the Shrine Senior Custodian. The next part of our service today begins with a recitation of the Ode, the fourth stanza of For the Fallen, a poem by the English poet and writer Lawrence Binyon. Following the Ode, the bugler sounds the last post, and we will observe a minute's silence, during which we honour the sacrifice of all who've died in the service of their country. The silence will end with the words, "Lest we forget," which we will all repeat before the bugler sounds the rouse. Please be upstanding. Melbourne Legacy Vice President Michael Annett will recite the Ode.
They shall grow not old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. Please be seated. We now await the arrival of the legacy torch. This flaming torch has long been a symbol of both sacrifice and survival, particularly in the context of war. The flaming torch symbolises sacrifice, representing the burning passion and devotion of those who fight for their nation. It also represents the spirit of survival, a beacon of hope in the darkness that guides soldiers through difficult times and gives them the strength to carry on. Overall, the torch symbolises the courage, sacrifice and resilience of those who have fought in wars. It's a reminder of the bravery of those who have come before us and a symbol of hope for those who continue to fight for a better world. The torch today is being carried by Shrine Young Ambassador Liana Loney, who will hand the torch to Junior Legatee Lucy Pilgrim. The torch is escorted by members of the Defence Force from the Australian Navy Chief Petty Officer Philippe Caceres, from the Australian Army Sergeant Scott Rose, and from the Royal Australian Air Force Sergeant Kane Beasley. During the torch procession, we'll hear from Melbourne High School Captain Rohan Green, who will recite that most famous of the war poems, In Flanders Fields.
In Flanders fields, the poppies grow, between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky, the larks still bravely singing fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago, we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you, from failing hands we throw the torch, be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders field.
Thank you, Rohan Green. Now, McRobertson Girls High School Captain Kathy Gu will read the answer.
Fear not that you have died for naught, the torch you threw to us we caught. And now our hands will hold it high, its glorious light shall never die. Will not break faith with you who lie on many a field.
Now can we ask all to stand as we sing the national anthem. The Governor of Victoria, Her Excellency the Honourable Professor Margaret Gardner, will now depart. Please remain standing until the Governor's car has moved off. The catafalque party will now dismount. The Guard of Honour will now march off. And now that the catafalque party has dismounted, the Guard of Honour marched off. That brings us to the end of today's 92nd Melbourne Legacy Anzac Commemoration Ceremony for students. Our special thanks go to the Melbourne High School Band and Choir and McRobertson Girls High School Choir. Our bugler, Joshua Lobo. Our pipers, Fergus Cameron and Oscar Jasky. Junior legatee, Lucy Pilgrim. Winner of the Legacy Junior Public Speaking Awards, AJ Santi from Portland Secondary College. McRobertson Girls High School Captain Kathy Gu. Melbourne High School Captain Rohan Green. ADF personnel, Shrine Guards and staff, and our Shrine Young Ambassadors, William Mulhauser, Liana Loney, Patrick Dickinson, Matthew Threlfall, and Benjamin Bazina. And you, for being part of this service today. We trust you found the day meaningful and hope you will be encouraged to take part in the Anzac Day services next week. Any schools intending to enter the shrine today are welcome to do so. Please come to the Visitor Centre entrance where shrine staff will greet you. Thank you.